Hello and welcome to episode 2. She knows better than I do. I'll say season 2 bit. Season 2.
Season 2, episode 4.
Ah. So this week we thought we'd go a bit different and do our birth stories. I can't believe we waited to season 2 to do this, considering it's a podcast about motherhood and all things mothering. We haven't actually discussed our birth stories.
And they're very different.
They're very different, and the reason I think we haven't discussed them is because I'm still a little bit traumatised by mine.
Yeah, Lauren's is quite, so pregnant, maybe
don't be scared. It's not to put people off, it was just a series of very unfortunate events.
And I think I love that film.
I hate that film. It scarred me for life as a kid.
It is a scary
horrible film.
But I do think it's good to hear different people's sides, because obviously everyone's birthing story is different. So it's good to hear two different.
And mine wasn't horrific in the fact that, like, you know when you tell people you're pregnant, everyone's like, oh, my birth was absolutely horrific, like blood everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And like you're just like, that's just what I want to hear. Brilliant, thanks for that.
No.
I do think it is good to hear other people's birth stories.
I like it.
When I was pregnant, I listened to loads of podcasts and watched loads of YouTube videos on one, people packing hospital bags, which I think we should do an episode on what we had in our hospital bags.
I was thinking that.
And 2, I loved hearing other people's birth stories.
Yeah, cause even though it did scare me sometimes, but like I love it.
I'm one of the people that loves I love knowing things. So education is key. I didn't want to go in blind. I read every book, listened to every podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't do antenatal classes because I was pregnant during COVID, but I did all the ones online.
I think we did.
You probably would have done.
I think so. Yeah, I think we did.
Do you want to start with your birth story, or did you gave birth first?
Oh well, yeah. Long time ago.
Back in the olden days.
Back in 1990.
You were born in 1994. 4?
Yeah, 4.
Oh, shit, you're 30 next year.
I know, I'm getting old. So my birth story is actually quite good. I had quite an easy birth, really. So I was early. Eli was actually due on the 11th of Feb, so he was, 3 days early? Mad. I was like, happy days, love it.
You were early for something, Jesus.
And I always remember, and this really freaks me out actually, this probably sums me up as a person, I think, because of being quite stubborn. When I woke up to go to work the day, obviously, I went into labour, and I said to him, for some reason, do you have to go in today? What a stupid question. You have to go into work. That was a stupid question. Do you have to go in today? Do you know what I mean? But I was like, do you have to go in today? And he turned around to me and said, well, go into labour then and I'll come home.
Well,
all right then.
You said it, so I did it.
Literally no word of a lie. He got to work. He started work like 7:30. Connor's dad was making a really hot curry that day as well. I went downstairs, all I could smell was really hot curry. And I think that set me off as well.
Well, you'd never eaten the curry?
No, oh god, I hate hot, spicy food.
Hannah's the sort of person that thinks that chip shop curry sauce is spicy.
Yeah, it can be. Or KFC, sometimes popcorn chicken can be a bit spicy.
Really?
Just a little bit.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so I reckon that's what set me off, the smell of a really hot curry. And so yeah, I text Connor saying, I think you might need to come home. And then I texted him back going, oh actually no, don't worry, it's fine. And then I texted him back going, no, you need to come home. So he came home, started having contractions about 8 o'clock in the morning, managed to stay at home until about 4. I had one of those TENS machine things.
I have one of them.
Recommend, get a TENS machine.
100%.
Hired them from Tesco's. I don't know if you still can hire it or not. I don't know.
I had to buy mine obviously during COVID.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, we got ours off Amazon and it wasn't massively expensive. I have since lent it to someone else, but...
It is good. It is really good. And then the good thing is with the Tesco one, you hire it and you take it back. And then I think what they do is they just change the wires and stuff.
Yeah, you can change. So I've let mine to my friend's daughter.
Yeah.
And you can buy new pads. So she just changed the pads, but they're also really good for period cramps.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
And the cramps after you give birth.
Oh yeah, because that is quite painful afterwards. But yeah, so I had that. I managed to get home to about 4, rang them up, and I had Braxton Hicks about a week or so before. And I ran the hospital thinking I was in labour and then felt really stupid because it went away. They said, just have a hot bath and you'll be fine.
Have a hot bath and do paracetamol?
Yeah. And I thought, then I was too scared to ring them back in case it was a false alarm again. So I think that's the only reason I managed to stay at home for as long as I did, because I was too scared to ring them and I was in labour. So I think that was the only reason. So then we went into hospital. I think we got into hospital about 4, and Connor and my mum were my birthing partners, so I had both my mum and Connor in there. So I rang my mum saying we're on our way to hospital. She took for blooming ever because she was like, oh, it's your first baby, you'll be in labour for ages. No word of advice, she walked through the door and my waters broke. And she was like, oh.
Your mum's like, I've got time to have a shower, get stuff together.
Literally, my dad was like, come on, hurry up. And she's like, it should be ages. And she literally walked through the door and my waters broke. She was like, okay, right, we're at that stage already, okay.
All right, cool. So, I made it for the fun part.
Yeah, literally, my mum was like, oh. But, yeah, so my first, because you have 2 waters, don't you, or front and a back. Is it like you've got 2 different, so your front one is a weird one. I remember saying...
Mine never went.
Did it not?
To this day, no one knows when they went.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah, the midwife.
Mine was like a waterfall.
Oh no, no one knows when my waters went. At one point they checked me and I had no waters. So like, when did they even go?
Oh.
Yeah.
Because we, I think...
Yeah, you do have a front and a back waters, I have heard that.
Yeah, so my front, I think it was the front one or the back one, whatever one, went first. And I went... I've either just wet myself or my waters have just broken. And then it was fine. And then I was on the bed and I don't know if I was starting to push at this point, so that's why it like just exploded as such. The main ones broke and I remember Connor and my mum going, whoa.
They do say that. The first one goes and then the second one doesn't go till you start pushing.
Yeah. And Connor and my
Tsunami!
Yeah, literally. My mum and Connor were like, whoa. And then I was like, what? And they're like, don't worry.
Nothing.
It's fine.
I'd have been worried that I pooped myself.
I didn't.
I didn't either.
I was so happy. Literally, I was like, yay. That was one of the first things I asked Connor and my mum. I was like, did I pee myself? And they're like, no. I was like, yes. Yes.
I think they're so discreet about it. If you did, then you'd never know.
They don't tell you, I don't think. They literally just click. Unless someone else tells you, I don't think they tell you, unless you do a really smelly one and you can smell it, I suppose. That'd be the only reason you would know. But yeah, so obviously my waters broke and then I started pushing and it's a really weird sensation. I was like, I feel like I need to push. And they're like, don't push yet, don't push. And you're like, I need to push.
No, I don't care what you say.
I'm pushing. And then Eli was here by 7:50. So I think I was in labour
in
for
the
about...
evening?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It was very quick. Very, very quick. But then I ripped, so I had to have stitches. I had to go to the theatre and have stitches. I had like a 3-degree rip, so it pretty much was almost the whole way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, because I think if you rip a little bit, you can, they can stitch you up there and then.
Yeah.
Where I had to go to the theatre because it was so much that it ripped. And that was weird sensation because you're literally there, you just had a baby but you're there with your legs in the air like, hello.
You just don't care.
Yeah, like,
oh yeah, when you have a baby, your dignity goes out the room.
Oh, it does, literally.
I remember having an argument with the nurse because she wouldn't let me go to the toilet naked.
Oh.
She's like, you have to put some clothes on. I was like, no, it's 1,000,000 degrees.
Oh wait, I had a toilet in my room.
I'll get into this story.
Oh, okay. But yeah, we'll get back to yours. But yeah, I had a toilet in my room. But yeah, so I had to have stitches and I kept saying, I remember I was so panicky, I was like, they're not going to leave, are they? I thought if when I was in theatre, Mum and Connor were going to go home, I was like, they're not going to leave, are they? I was thinking, who's going to have the baby if they leave, like, you know. But I was really, I kept saying to the person, they're not going to leave, are they? They're still going to leave when I come out. And I don't know why I was so panicky about them, I don't know. That was just one thing, I was just like, they're not going to leave, are they? And the guy said, do you mind if a student comes in? So I had a student in with me, because I had students through my whole pregnancy, because in my opinion, they need to learn somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't care if, you know, as long as there's someone else that's fully qualified and I'm not going to be in any danger, then I don't care.
I loved the student midwife that was in with me. I was in labour.
I think I squeezed her hand, I think, one of the ones that was in me. She probably thought, I don't want to do this job anymore. And he actually did a few stitches, I think.
Give it a bash.
I know, you know, I'm just like a whatever the word is, just carry on. Yeah, so happy days. But that was quite good, and the guy actually was quite nice because I had to have an injection to like obviously numb from like here down.
Spinal block.
Yeah. And that was weird. And the guy at my head obviously was just watching it go in. There were so many people in this room. It was like just like a room, like a white room, and there was about 4 or 5 people in there. And there was only one person doing the stitches, but so many people. I've never had an operation or anything before, so that's my first experience of an operation room. And the guy doing like watching the drip and making sure it wasn't wearing off, I suppose, was like, oh, if you want, we can chat. Or you can listen to music. He said, or you can have a sleep. It's probably going to be the last decent sleep you get for a while. I was like, cheers, mate.
Aren't you pessimistic?
Yeah, thank you very much. And the guy on the other end doing my stitches, he was like, just by the way, this is probably a bit crude, you know, this podcast is going to be a bit discreet if we don't listen to this podcast because
yeah, birth stories are a bit TMI.
Yeah. But he said to me, oh, you know, when you have sex, it will feel a lot different. I was like, oh, he's tightening me up.
Putting the husband's dick, that's what they call it.
Yeah, literally. I was like, oh, thank you very much. But I remember when he said it to me, I was like in a room full of people, and that is the last thing on my mind right now.
Like sex, he's never going near me again.
Yes, no way. Literally. So yeah, I had to have stitches, and then I had to then stay in because obviously where I was numb from like waist down, I wasn't allowed to leave. And I think Eli pooed on the way out, so they needed to make sure he was okay and I was okay. So I stayed in hospital. He was born on the Wednesday. I think I went home on the Friday, so I stayed for 2 nights.
That's so weird. Both our kids were born on a Wednesday in February.
That is very weird. And it's only like a week apart, obviously a week apart.
A week apart?
Yeah.
Obviously like 6 years apart, but a week apart.
So
5 years apart.
We like February.
Yeah. February's a busy month in our household.
Literally. But yeah, and then we went home on the Friday. They did say I could go to that New Forest thing because Eli was struggling to latch on with breastfeeding, which I probably said in the last podcast, it didn't really work for us, like last season. Breastfeeding didn't really work for us. And I just wanted to go home. I remember Connor went home the Thursday night and I cried because I just wanted to go home. I was like, I don't want to be here on my own, I just want to go home. Yeah. You get to that point where you want to go home. Yeah, and then they wouldn't let me leave until you can go for a wee and stuff, blah blah, and then I managed to go home. But yeah, so my birth story, I went to Princess Anne Hospital, very good. The only one thing I said, and I did a survey thing, I don't know if you got one or not, when after you give birth, they give you a survey to kind of give them feedback as such.
Yeah, I got like an electronic one.
Yeah, so I did that. The only thing I do, kind of, I said, is the midwife I had, they need some more code words, I think, because Eli got stuck. I don't think my contractions were long enough, so my pushing wasn't long enough to get him out, so it almost was kind of like, they were like, oh, can you get the resuscitation kit outside just in case we need it? And I was like, why? Why would you say that? Like, you need to, like, right in front of me. Then you start to panic.
Yeah, and then everything goes out the window.
And I reckon that's why I ripped, because obviously I was then just pushing, because I was like, I don't...
Panic mode.
Yeah. And he didn't cry for ages. That's another thing I would say. If they don't cry when they first come out, don't panic. It's not like the movies. Like, I thought it was like the movies. It ain't. And apparently my mum just kept saying, all I kept going was like, why is he not crying? Why is he not crying? Why is he not crying? And because she put that thing in my head.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was, because she said that stupid thing. Like, I just think, have a code word for that sort of thing.
Yeah, even if it's like, just not code red.
Yeah. Oh yeah, not code red, because we all know what code red is.
Code purple?
Code purple?
Blue?
Yeah, maybe blue, because that'd be blue. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh.
But yeah, anyways, on to Lauren's. Mine was quite tame. Go on, Lauren, your turn.
So, I hate speaking about my birth story.
I actually haven't heard your full birth story.
I don't want to talk about it. It's
So
a bit traumatising. So I was pregnant during COVID. I fell pregnant during the first lockdown. You can tell me and my husband were up to during the first lockdown.
They were bored.
And so I was heavily pregnant. We were out for a little bit, and then we went back into the second lockdown, and I was heavily pregnant at that time. Mm-hmm. And it's probably a good thing because I wouldn't have stopped work until I gave birth, so luckily I was able to stop work early enough. Mm-hmm. But I was meant to have IV at the QA, and I changed my hospital about a month before she was due.
Oh yeah, because they were a bit rubbish, weren't they?
They weren't the best. I do understand that the QA was overrun with COVID.
Yeah.
They literally didn't know. Their COVID ward was like bursting. Mm. And I remember going in the day after Boxing Day for reduced movement, and this was the 4th time I'd gone in with reduced movement now.
Yeah.
And they left me on a ward for 2.5 hours because of COVID, not even on a ward, in a room. Yeah. Because of COVID, my husband couldn't come in with me. He was sat in the car park waiting for me. The signal was crap, so I couldn't get hold of him.
Worrying time, really.
Yeah, and then they just came in about a few hours later. I'm like, oh, we forgot about you. I know. I then went back to my midwife and said, look, I don't want to give birth there. I want to give birth in Southampton. That caused utter chaos, but I got away with it. Yeah. But I then later found out that if you've had 3 bouts of reduced movement, you should have been induced.
Really?
Yeah, and I wasn't. So I then got all my paperwork switched over to Southampton and had every idea of giving birth at the New Forest Birth Centre. I've been really into hypnobirthing. I'm a bit airy-fairy anyway. I love that sort of thing. So I've been reading books on it and listening to podcasts, and that was my vibe. So I actually was due the day after my husband's birthday. So I was due on the 2nd of February. and no, that's wrong. I was due on the 3rd of February, but I went into labour on the 2nd of February.
Yeah.
So my husband said all he wanted for his birthday, which is the 1st, was a Nando's. It was in lockdown, he couldn't go anywhere anyway. So we ordered a Nando's to our house.
They live very close to Nando's.
We do. We live really close to Nando's. Hannah's so jealous that I can get Nando takeaways, delivered to my house. So we had a Nando's takeaway and watched some films and stuff. And in the early hours of the 2nd, I started my contractions. I think it was about 2 a.m. And I was then up all night, and it was really cute actually. I left Ant in bed and I stayed and got up, and I went downstairs and was bouncing on my birth ball with my dog, and it's like he knew something was up because he rested his like head on my belly. It was really sweet, and I was just timing my contractions on my phone and was downstairs, and it got to about I was actually watching Disney films. I was watching Tangled and stuff, just like bouncing along on my ball.
We're Disney fans.
Keeping calm, timing my contractions, texting my friend Kelly, who lives in Australia, because she was the only person that was awake at that time of the day.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing, and then it got to about 7 o'clock, and I went and woke Ant up, and he didn't quite believe me when I said, "Oh, I'm in labour," or "I think I'm in labour." He was like, "What?" And I wanted to go walk the dog, and he was like, "What?" I was like, "No, I want to walk the dog. The best thing I'd heard during labour is to stay active."
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So we went and walked the dog, we came home and had some breakfast. I couldn't really eat. I think I ate a cream egg.
I love cream eggs.
And yeah, I managed to stay at home till about 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's good.
And I rang the line and said that I wanted to go to the New Forest Birthing Centre. They said that was absolutely fine. So we went over there. After a quick discussion with the midwife, because of COVID, you had to be so many centimetres along before they would let you stay in.
Yeah. 4 centimetres, isn't it?
Yeah, I think. I had an argument with her and refused to be... This is my one regret. When I have my next baby, I'm definitely going to put my foot down on a lot of things. You don't have to be checked, and I hate being checked.
Do you not?
You don't have to be. There's no requirement.
But how would they know though?
But they don't have to. I've read a lot into it since.
Okay.
You don't have to be checked. Anyway, she managed to talk me around into it, to being checked.
It's not nice.
It's not nice.
But...
Anyway, so she said I was so nearly at 4, but unfortunately because of the COVID policies, I wasn't allowed to stay. And it was really lovely. She made me a lovely essential oils set and stuff to go home and have a bath. So I did that. I went home, had a bath with essential oils. I think I ate another cream egg.
Love cream eggs.
I know. And then I can't remember what time we went back to the hospital, but I rang them back and said, "Look, they're intense now. Like, I need to come back." And I went back, and they were like, "Yeah, that's fine." I got there, and I think I was like 7 centimetres.
That's good going.
Yeah. So they ran the birthing pool for me. Had all the electronic candles on. I had my music playing, snacks out, drinks out. Was really relaxed and just absolutely living my best life, like getting my hypnobirthing dream. I didn't need pain relief for the contractions. I was breathing through them. I was literally winning at life at this point. I felt amazing in labour.
That's so good. So good.
And then shit hit the fan. My midwife came in crying, which is never a good sign. And
she came in crying?
Yeah. And I think she knew exactly what my reaction was going to be as well, and I think that's why she came in crying, because I was in such a good state at this moment. Like, I hadn't had any pain relief other than a couple of paracetamol. Like, I was literally just living my best life, booming away to Mamma Mia. So she came in and she said, because of COVID, 2 other local hospitals were exceptionally short-staffed, so they were shutting the birth centre down. It was only me and another woman there. We were around the same stages of labour.
Oh yeah, because you were actually there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there. And because the New Forest Birthing Centre isn't a hospital at all, I then had to go to a hospital. So the nearest hospital is Princess Anne. There were no ambulances or anything. My husband drove me across Southampton in rush hour traffic.
At 7 centimetres.
At 7 centimetres dilated, through roadworks and about 1 million diversions.
That's so bad.
I could barely sit on my seat. I was like lifting off my seat while Ant's trying to stay calm whilst driving, and I was like having massive contractions. We got to Princess Anne, and the midwives were lovely and they had really tried, but the difference between the Princess Anne Birthing Centre and the New Forest one is massive. The New Forest one is beautiful, it's clean, it's chic, it's modern. Princess Anne is not the same. No. So I was in this room and I hadn't eaten. I got to the hospital and where I'm celiac, they couldn't feed me.
Oh God.
So my husband actually ate my dinner. they're like, I'm really sorry, we can't feed you. So I was just leaving off. Luckily, being a celiac, I carry snacks everywhere I go. So I had a million snacks and I was just eating them. And then they were like, yeah, that's you. You can't have any pain relief yet. We need to see where you're at, redo everything. And at this point, my contractions were lasting for 45 minutes at a time. And I was having about 30 seconds a minute off. And they were still like, yeah, you can't have pain relief yet. Because there wasn't gas and air set up in the room, they couldn't find any canisters, it was just a massive palaver. So then there came the midwife switchover.
Yeah.
I have no idea what time of day we're on by this point as well. So there came the midwife switchover. So the midwife switchover, and I had the most gorgeously amazing student midwife who actually was Greek. She was lovely. She was very young, but she was absolutely lovely, and she had a qualified lady with her who actually I didn't really get to know much. She just sort of stayed away and let the student do it.
I think the students are better.
Oh, she was absolutely lovely. She was in with my Mamma Mia booging, and she ran me a pool in one of the other rooms, and set up all my speakers and tried to make it as lovely as she possibly could for me because she knew where I'd come from. And this is one of the main problems. They tell you have to wee a lot during labour.
I can't remember that.
Oh yeah, see, I remember everything.
It's a bit of a blur.
And there is no toilet in that room. This is what the main argument came down to. So they were telling me every time I needed a wee, I had to get up out of the pool, get dried, get dressed, and walk round to the toilet.
Just wee in the pool.
That's what I said, and they said no.
Oh.
I think I did a couple of times.
I was gonna say.
Because at this point, I think I was like 8 Lucasades deep.
Yeah.
And I was in the pool for hours, like hours. My fake tan came off.
Oh god.
Like
disaster.
I was in the pool for hours, but I had just stopped. I think I'd got to 8 centimetres dilated and just stopped. I was there for hours and hours and hours. And my reasoning behind it is the whole level they say is that your oxytocin is the hormone you release in order to dilate, and you only release that hormone, it's the love hormone, so you only release it when you're happy, relaxed. And because of all the upheaval and everything, I think my body just went into panic mode.
Yeah.
And at this point, Ivy was doing really strange things.
Yeah.
Like I was contracting and you could see her flipping.
That's weird.
Like she was not in the right position at all. And like you could see parts of her, like she had flipped from being like head down to like feet. Yeah. At one point her head was sticking out like sideways. Yeah.
Oh.
Even the student midwife was loving it because obviously it's really educational for her.
Yeah, but she's like, carry on.
She was, it was a nightmare. So at this point they decided they need to put me on an active labour ward and take me out and put me on a drip to continue to dilate me to 10 centimetres. So at this point I was shoved in what felt like a broom cupboard. The room was tiny, there was no loo off this room either. It was horrific.
Yeah.
And this bloke came in me and was trying to make me sign a bit of paper and read a leaflet. I think I threw it at him. I didn't mean to, but at this point I'd lost the plot.
Yeah.
So they put me on a drip and gave me some really strong painkillers. Remifentanil, Jesus Christ.
See, I never had, that's one thing I didn't say. I didn't have
Remifentanil's
anything.
fairly new.
Is it?
So the problem is when you go on a drip,
Yeah.
it makes your contractions 10 times more intense because it's forcing you into labour.
Oh my
They do say if you're
Jesus.
induced as well, it's more painful.
Oh.
So they insisted I had to have some form of pain relief. I didn't want an epidural. I was adamant I didn't want an epidural. So they were like, fine, have this then. So it's remifentanil, you press a button. You forget to breathe.
Oh, doesn't it make you go a bit like...
No,
Something.
you forget to breathe.
Oh.
Like I'd be stood up having a contraction, hit the button, and then I'd like go out of it and come round to Lauren, and breathe. I'm like, but everyone I spoke to that's had remifentanil said the same thing.
I think it was coming in when we...
I think it's fairly new because my friend Emma didn't have it with OC May, but she had it with Pip.
What's the one then? Because I remember we did do the whatever they're called, the classes, and there was one where it does make you go a bit like...
Is that not gas in it?
No, gas and ash, crap, it did not work for me.
Oh, I like gas in it.
But it worked once, and then I was a bit like, but there's one that makes you go really kind of like...
Maybe that was remifentanil.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I remember them saying, I can't remember what the name was, but there was one that makes you go like really kind of like, you're not with it at all.
That's quite a lot of medication. So at this point we'd like carried on in this horrible room. My husband had a meltdown because he was tired and he was worried about me. Like it must
Tired? He's tired?
No, I think it must be. He had it because he was tired, but not because he was tired of that. Not because he felt tired. But
Stuck him
because
silly.
I think he was like mentally drained by this point. It must be awful to watch. Like at this point, I've been in labour for over 30 hours.
Oh my Jesus.
And then they had another change of midwives, and at this point they called in like everyone under the sun. I couldn't, like, they'd put a monitor on her head.
Yeah.
I could not tell you what point this happened. I have no idea that she even had a monitor on her head. But I remember them saying, they're like, Lauren, you have to push her out now or she's going to die, because they weren't getting any readings off the monitor. So I started pushing like absolute mad.
Well, this is the thing, they're not very technical with things like that.
No. So I was like pushing like absolutely mad, and my husband, oh my god, it would all get very stressful in this tiny room, and there was millions of people. I just remember getting really stressed because there was about this room, I can't even explain to you how small it was. Like there was only room for one person to stand next to me on the bed.
Jesus.
And everyone else that was in the room had to line up against one wall. It's like they just stuck me in a broom cupboard because they'd run out of rooms.
Why did they not take for a C-section?
Oh, they threatened that so many times. I argued with them.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it came out that actually the monitor had fallen off her head. And she was no longer in my birth canal, she'd wiggled out. So they took me round to theatre.
Yeah.
And originally I think they were trying to scare me, so I had to push her out. That's why they were going to give me a cesarean, but I didn't want one. And they took me round to theatre and said, look, it's not going to be a cesarean birth, a forceps birth.
Yeah.
I physically pushed her out, but they needed to sort of turn her and get her in position. And these are like a smaller pair of... I didn't even know this was a thing. It's a smaller pair of forceps.
Is it like a socky thing on their head?
No. It's still forceps.
Okay.
But they don't pull the baby out. They just turn them.
Okay.
So they were trying to talk me into an epidural again. I still refused one, so I had a spinal block at this point.
Yeah.
And they turned her, and I pushed her out in theatre. But the scariest thing about giving birth to a baby in a theatre is everyone comes in.
Yeah.
Like, everyone comes in. They've got resuscitation teams, they've got this, that, everything. They've got everyone in there just in because it's then becoming a bit of an emergency.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're coming...
Yeah.
what's going to come out.
Yeah.
So it then became an emergency. So I pushed her out, which was really... I still got to push her out, which is what I really wanted.
Yeah.
And the midwife I had at this point, it's really funny, the midwife I had at this point was actually the midwife I had at the birthing centre.
Oh my Jesus.
Yeah, we'd done a full 180 here. Like, I've been there so long, she had actually become my midwife at a different hospital. It was great.
That's quite hilarious.
And it was quite lucky that I really liked her, so I was glad that she was the one that was there when I gave birth. And she was lovely with it all. And yeah, so I gave birth to her and she came out not crying, and I think at this point the midwife could tell I was about to lose my crap. Like I was panicking, like proper panicking. Yeah, so at this point I was like panicking and she wasn't crying, and the midwife even came over to me and she was honest with me, and I think I preferred this. They said she's not breathing.
Fuck.
They're like, her lungs aren't filling, so they had to open her airways and fill her. They do it with something. They filled her lungs up with something, and then it felt like probably the longest 5 minutes of my life. She screamed.
Yeah,
and
that's the best scream
I
ever.
gave it to me, and I just remember them giving me this baby that looked like a long, gangly golem. Like, there is no other way to describe Ivy's baby. Me and my husband were actually discussing it the other day. She just looked like her skin was too big for her. She was such a skinny baby.
They do. Babies that have been pushed out the normal way do look squashed.
She just looked like a wrinkly old man. Oh bless her, she's gorgeous, but she's so tiny, and she had like little chicken legs. Like, she's never been a chubby baby.
No.
And she just had these little tiny chicken legs. But I'll never forget that, just them hanging with me, like, oh, there's a dingly. I also didn't believe it was a girl until she was born.
Aww.
They told me the whole way through her pregnancy. I had private scans and everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's a girl. I was like, yeah, it's not a girl. But then this is where my stay in hospital got a bit... So because of COVID, Ant was able to come back to the room for an hour. He was only allowed to stay for an hour with me. So it was really nice. The midwife had left the cord longer so that he could cut it when we got back to the room.
Oh, that's nice.
So they done that and helped me have a little wash, and we dressed her and I fed her, and that was all lovely. And then he had to go. And I remember bawling my eyes out.
It's horrible when they have to go. It's horrible.
And that night was probably one of the worst nights of my life. I was still partially numb. Obviously a spinal block wears off rather than a... it comes off my watch list. A spinal block wears off over time gradually. So I remember Ivy having a poop explosion of meconium.
Yeah, the greeny
the sticky
stuff.
tart. Yeah. Anyway, and I couldn't move. I still couldn't feel from about my knees down.
Yeah.
So I hit my button, and this midwife came, and I was like, oh, my baby's like had a poop explosion everywhere. And she was like, what do you want me to do about it? I was like, I'm not asking you to clean her, but could you get my stuff? I can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
Horrible woman. Anyway.
Some of them are.
That night, I spent all night watching Walt Disney on my phone with my headphones in and just cuddling Ivy. And then at one point, this is where I realised she's not a normal newborn. She would not settle.
Which you were thinking, oh, fuck.
So the really nice midwife that I was talking about, the student one, came back. This is how long I was in hospital for. Everyone came back on their next shift. She came back in and she took her for an hour for me. In the end, I had to buzz to get her back, so I was like, bring her back. And I'd pumped colostrum and brought it in the freezer, and she gave her some colostrum for me, and she was like, just sleep for an hour. She's like, please just sleep. She's like, at this point, you've been up for like 48 hours. Just please get some sleep, some rest, anything. So she made me a hot chocolate, and I just chilled for an hour, but I had to have her back. Even though I'd only had her for a few hours, I thought, look, she was not, bring her back.
It is funny because you're in a hospital, but you kind of think, well, where's my baby? Like, it's a weird feeling.
You don't forget she's there. Like, the whole time I've had her, I've never forgotten about her.
No.
Apart from the crash the other day at the gym, I did actually forget to go get her. But
that was on purpose.
Oh, what? My charm.
Oh,
but then they told me that I spent the whole of the next day on FaceTime to Anne, waiting, and then they were like, you've got to have 2 weeks, then you can go home. I was like, right, get me 4 jugs of water, I'm getting out of it, and I did.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, isn't it? You have to have 2 weeks or you're not allowed to go.
I was like, get me out of it. Oh, and the first thing I did when I got home is I went and had a shower, put some clean clothes on.
I'm here, oh god. We're meant to meet our friend for coffee.
We're running late. I went and put some clean clothes on, and I felt so much better, and just lived in my newborn bubble. And this is where I'm sort of glad for COVID, because no one could come around and ruin my newborn bubble.
This is the thing, I don't know have we done a podcast on newborns yet? Maybe because that's a good thing, because I mean that's a good thing, because that's one stage actually. Maybe we could do that next week. Because it's so overwhelming and people are just...
feel like they can just turn up at your house.
Yeah, maybe we should do that next week, because then we can talk about that.
And we were in our little newborn bubble for a long time.
And that's nice. That is nice. It's lovely. I love it. But very different birthing stories.
I'm not trying to scare anyone, and my birth, I suppose it was exceptional circumstances. It was during COVID, the whole country was upside down.
Yeah.
Like...
yeah, and the thing is as well, like everyone, you know, it's different for everyone, you know, and the good thing is, has it put you up on another baby?
A little bit.
Oh, okay. That wasn't the answer I was hoping for.
No, I will.
You meant to say no, Lauren.
Sorry, I will have another baby. I just feel like
and it might give me a better experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I will do differently next time.
Yeah, like I didn't have any pain relief apart from gas and air. It didn't really work, but I think for my next baby, I probably will have pain relief.
I think I will win my battle next time and have a home birth, which is what I wanted in the first place.
I'm too scared to do that.
No, it's what I wanted in the first place, and I feel like if my husband would have allowed, he was too scared to let me have a home birth.
I don't think.
I was really low risk.
Yeah.
I was within the risk of preeclampsia, but I was highly medicated through the whole my pregnancy. I'll go into that another day.
We should do a podcast about that.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hannah's thinking out loud. But other than that, I was pretty low risk, so I could have had a home birth. But my husband was so scared. He was like, no.
Maybe for the second one, you can say like
look what happened with the first one.
Yeah.
But then it won't. Probably shouldn't be during the middle of a global pandemic, so.
Yeah, no, I wasn't allowed one. Maybe we'll go into that another time why I wasn't allowed one. Maybe that could be another time, but not for now. It's a bit too deep for now.
It's a bit too deep, and we're running very late.
We're running very late. But my one recommendation for this, I don't know if they still do it, because I don't know if they did it, obviously COVID, they probably didn't do it with you. But if you can, and they still do it, is definitely have the option of having the bounty lady do some photos for you.
Oh no, that didn't exist when I was a thing.
So I don't know if they still do it or not, but
they do still do it. I've seen people's pop up on Facebook.
Because they're lovely. So you get 10 photos. They're quite expensive, but you get them in colour and black and white. And she asks the mum, she always takes a picture of dad and baby, and then she'll ask you, do you want to be in it or not?
Oh God, no.
But I was like, yeah, and they're my favourite photos. And like the one up there, that's from the hospital. So like he's hours old and so cute. We got so many nice ones, and bring a cuddly toy if you can for the photo. But yeah, if you can do it and you can afford to do it, definitely do it.
Do you know what? One of the things I did do after I was born was I got out of bed and I French plaited my hair.
Love it. Needs to be done. I can't do that to my own hair.
At this point, at one point, my bum was like over here, and oh my God. What do I recommend? Do you know what? I recommend snacks.
Oh, snacks. Take loads of snacks.
Take so many snacks. Take everything. And make sure, it sounds really bad, you shouldn't be thinking about them that much, but make sure your partner's got something to do. I was in hospital for a long time.
Yeah.
Snacks, Lucozade, water.
Yes.
And music. Take music.
Yeah.
I've got a wireless speaker, and even when I was at some pretty bad moments of my labour, hearing Mamma Mia, and my playlist was so funny. It was like a mixture of like Mamma Mia, Tupac. Like, it was hilarious.
Good mix.
Just that is enough to lift you.
Yeah.
But I also do recommend hypnobirthing, and I think
Yeah.
it's something, when we talk about our pregnancies, it's something I'll go into a bit more and actually find out the name of the book I had.
Yeah, because I think, again, that was a newish thing. Like, it's so funny how different, like, you know, obviously Eli and Ivy are almost, well, they're almost 6 years apart, aren't they?
They're
5
years apart.
5 years apart. And it's quite weird how much has changed between those 5 years. Yeah, they're 5.
4 years apart.
4 years?
Oh,
Oh, no.
he's 6, she's 2 in February.
Oh, yes, 4 years.
They're 4 years apart.
So even less time, and it's changed. Like, I don't think hypnobirth was really a thing when I had Eli, but it's definitely more popular these days. But yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to our rabbiting on about our birth stories.
Hopefully you didn't get too...
Please don't be traumatised by my
Grossed
story.
out.
Please don't be traumatised.
And definitely, like, tell us your story. Like, this is another podcast we've got an idea for, is we want to know your stories, like funny moments, embarrassing moments. Tell us your birth story that you wouldn't mind us sharing on the podcast. We won't say your name. It would be like anonymous. Is that the word? Anonymous? Is that the word? Anonymous. But I think that'd be quite a nice podcast to do, like just hearing everyone else's story. So if you want to share your birthing story with us and you want it to go on the podcast,
Let us know.
let us know. Yeah.
If not, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye.